The Players' Championship is upon us, one of the biggest championships in all of golf. It is the deepest field made up of elite professionals. And the other thing about this great championship is that nobody has an exemplary record, except maybe for the guy who's won it in back-to-back years. Our Players' Championship preview with myself, Brendon, Jonge, Wagner, and Taylor Zarzour is coming up right now.
In this split second, your hands make all the difference. It was time for a grip to help them own the moment. Introducing Reverse Taper, technology to stabilize both hands for a more square putter face at impact. The most important split second in golf. Reverse Taper, only from Golf Pride. Respect the grip.
And with that, look at this, 4 wide for the first time in 2025, the Players Preview. Taylor Zarzour, Jonge, Wagner, Brendon DeYoung. All right, boys, looking forward to this. This is a great week. What is the Players?
It's the birthplace of Jonge Wagner being a content creator. That's where it is.
The best answer, it can't be touched.
Yeah, I mean, him throwing 100-mile-an-hour seeds on the...
Is there going to be a plaque on the seventh hole in that bank?
Yeah, seventh hole in that bank. That's where it all started. It's like 100+ great venues in American sports. It's the home of the PGA Tour. When you think, there was a great winter ice event in hockey this past week at Ohio Stadium, and that's where Ohio State plays. When you go to Madison Square Garden, that's where the Knicks play. When you in this state, you go to Cameron Indoor Stadium, that's where Duke plays. Dean Dome is where the Tar Heels play. This is where the PGA Tour plays. That's what I think of when I think about the stadium course.
Yeah. What is it?
I mean, it's the Tours Major. It was always one of my favorite tournaments to play. The way they treated us, the locker room, the staff, they knew your name. Yeah. It was always a great place to go. And covering it now for the first time last year, it is one of my, if not my favorite place to go cover. What they've done to the spectator village behind 17, all the aspects of it, it is a home run for players and fans alike.
Yeah, it's the flagship event. It's the best, deepest field in golf. And Johnson's right. I mean, you get treated like an absolute king when you set foot on property, and it's just got that special feel about it.
Well, and he said it. It's great covering that event, and I love watching the best in the world play there. It's not my favorite place to play, though. Amateurs playing there, you struggle and you get angry. It is the ultimate target golf course, point to point. It's like playing a tough par 3 off the tee and then a tough par 3 into the green. I love watching the best in the world play because it is whoever's the best ball striker and short game player that week is going to win. But if you're unsteady with your game from tee to green and you're uncomfortable with the way the golf course looks, you are really going to struggle out there as an amateur.
The Tours Major, honest to God, I don't think I've ever heard that before, that it's the Tours Major, because you know this. Look, for decades it's been, is it a major? Is it not a major? Is it the 5th major? I remember sitting in a meeting with the commissioner, Jay Monahan, and asking him, do you like it being called the 5th major? And he kind of looked at me like, is that a trick question? My point is, it's either a major or it isn't. We don't numerically apply you can have your favorite major, but their weightiness is equal. The Tours Major, it's the best field on the most discomforting golf course, because that's the other part of it. I think we all agree March is better. We like it better in March for all the reasons. Okay, so how should it play ideally?
Hard and fast. I think that's how we'd all like to see it. We'd like to see some thick rough and some firm greens on a golf course where single digits wins. I think that's what we want. We don't want to see somebody really tear it apart.
And in March, you get some variable winds. It can blow different directions, different days. I like seeing single digits win big golf tournaments, and I think it got pretty low last year. It was a little softer, but I think a single digit Players Championship, it will really bring out the best.
Yeah, and to Brendan's point, if you want it to play hard and fast, you can lose the golf course in May, and we've seen them get to the border of that when you get to 90+ degree conditions. So yeah, absolutely. I love having it in March. And as for the whole should it be a major conversation, I love what it is now where it's in its own lane. If it was a major, I feel like it would be ranked as the 4th or 5th biggest major and it would get lost in the shuffle. I think it has its own identity.
It's the Players, and it's a massive accomplishment to win it. The fact that it is, like you said, like it's really unnerving to deal with so many shots there. I think that that's reflected in records of players who have won, players who are great players who have no record there. Is the challenge of handicapping this event and the fact that few players have a spotless record there make it the best event to handicap because it's so damn hard to?
It is the ultimate test of whoever. You have to bring form into the players. You cannot find it there on a Tuesday, Wednesday on the course or on the driving range. You better come in with some form. So I think when you look at who you're picking, they better be playing good golf leading into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the evidence is right there that we hadn't seen a repeat champion until last year. Scottie Scheffler was the first person to do that. And you're exactly right. Like, it is you can play decent out there and really score badly. I think that's kind of what makes it so difficult to handicap as far as picking who's going to play well that week.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a hole like number 10, to your point. Number 10 is just an easy little 3-wood out there. If you miss it 2 yards left of your target, it can hit the bank, kick over into the bunker behind trees. You're struggling to make bogey, yet if you're 1 yard right, you're flipping a wedge into a gettable pin. Like the error, the margin for error is so fine on that golf course.
You know, the thing about this is that it's the Players' Championship. It's the players. We keep shortening everything. I think it's the most open. Like we have the U.S. Open, we have the Open Championship. We're supposed to call it the Open. This is the most open. I think it's partially because of the depth of the field, but also because of the golf course, that it is the most open in terms of saying, I think he might win. And we would look at you and go, what are you talking about? He has no record. And then you look at guys who've won who have had no record until they've won.
Well, and it's because you have a full field of the best players in the game. It has the best full field of the entire year. So you get the best full field together, then you're honestly talking about maybe 100 players that would, if they just have a great 4 straight days of ball striking and making enough putts, they can win the tournament, and the next week they could go miss the cut somewhere. Yeah,
look, some of these guys didn't, but they were close enough to it. Kevin Kisner was not a big name at all when he was right there. Paul Goydos was obviously not a big name. Tim Clark back in 2010, he had knocked on the door a bunch. That wasn't particularly surprising. Obviously, Craig Perks is the greatest example ever of the point that he just made. Outside of Scheffler, who is the guy that you're most certain is going to be in the mix?
Oh, I get to start? I'm going to say Colin Morikawa. I just like the consistency that he's played with in big events the last couple of years. He only played 3 events leading in this year. I think he's fresh. I think he's sharp. I love the way he drives the golf ball. Colin Morikawa is going to be in the mix.
Okay.
Justin Thomas, for something that he was talking about, you need to be coming in with some form. Justin Thomas has played really nicely on the West Coast swing. He's going to be coming in there with some form. He's a former champion as well. And Justin, when he's comfortable moving the ball both ways, which he is right now, I think he's a perfect fit for that golf course.
Okay.
I'll go Russell Henley just to keep it different. Ball striking, there's a huge premium on that. The guy is a top 10 machine, had every chance to win at the Cognizant recently, and has played for really the last 12 plus months the best golf of his life.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ludwig. First of all, he's played it once and he finished 8th. And again, he could miss the cut this year, which is what a lot of guys do. But he's already got a win this year where you're talking about Justin, who's in the middle of, along with a handful of other Americans primarily, this prolonged winless drought. If you said to me outside of Scheffler, who do I feel most comfortable is going to be in the mix? I mean, I'm taking Ludwig over your guys. I mean, come on.
Ludwig's a great pick as well because there's no scar tissue. Everybody else has got some scar tissue around that golf course, whether it be some really weird break or something that's gone strange that you don't see on most golf courses. Ludwig doesn't have that yet.
He is a local now, too. He's living in the area. These are his words, not mine. Yeah. I've asked him, I said, if there's something you need in order to be the best player in the game that you don't currently have, what is it? And he said, my short game, in my opinion, is not as strong as some of the other best players in the world. That'd be the one thing I think he needs to improve. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, now we're nitpicking.
Yeah, for sure. Now, on the other side of it, this is not the place, as you said, to show up and try to find something. There's a lot of guys trying to find it whose 2025s are not good. Give me somebody who you feel, and you're not trying to run guys down here, but you're like, I'd be shocked if he's a factor.
Victor Hovland,
Yeah.
the self-talk is terrible. It really is bad. And he still looks like he's tinkering, he's searching. He just looks uncomfortable out there at the moment. And this is not the golf course you want to show up where you're looking for something.
Okay.
I've got two. I don't think Xander Schauffele is going to be a factor. It's not his own doing. I think it's
Certainly.
tragic coming off the year he had to have the rib issues. Didn't look particularly good at TGL, and I just think he's going to try to figure some things out, getting ready for the Masters. I think that's when he's going to try to peak. I think the Players is going to be just reps.
Okay. And that's your one? You said you had a couple.
I don't want to steal anybody else's,
Okay.
but Max Homa is
Okay.
just.
Well, there it is.
There it is.
You can make the point.
Well, I
about
mean,
that.
Steal of the match.
It's the same thing as what Victor Hovland. He's thinking so much about golf swing right now. He's gone through a manufacturing change recently, and it just, I mean, you watch him. We've had the good fortune, Brendon and I, of doing a lot of PGA Tour Live this year, and just watching each player nonstop as you go through their round. He is constantly working on his rehearsal every single time before he pulls the trigger on any shot. He is thinking about technique, and I think it's quite the search going on right now for Max.
Is Brendon the guy who has the two dressing rooms at the PGA Tour Live's headquarters?
Everybody actually does.
Oh, okay.
Brendon uses both of them, though.
I got to get my hair done in one, and then I go to the other
Very
one.
nice. I'm going to say the guy who we were talking about this on the Golf Channel show during Bay Hill Week, which when he left there, he didn't win, but you're going, oh my God, this guy could go to Augusta and win, and that is Wyndham Clark. I'm not feeling it. He's in a wonky place. It happens. It happens to a lot of players. Ebbs, historically, you can look at every great player with only a very few exception that had a legitimate dip. He's in an ebb. I just don't see him factoring.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. Going back to what Johnson was saying, in every sport, as a sports fan, we get frustrated when you lose a great player on a team and you're thinking, gosh, what would we be if we had this guy? I really wish we would have Xander Schauffele in great health right now, coming off the season he just had, winning 2 major championships, and just about every other year he would have been the player of the year had we not had what Scottie Scheffler did. I really wish we had Xander at full strength right now to challenge Scottie and Rory and Ludwig.
I know, and I think that, when we start talking about why are people not that interested, and although the ratings the last month have been very encouraging, they've been very, very solid. And again, his absence, Scottie wasn't there at an event or two that he was supposed to play. Rory doesn't play much before March. I'm with you about that. It's too bad. Spieth. Okay, when you say his name, he's getting all tingly. Is the tease officially on here, Brendon? Let me start with you with respect to him, because, okay, he went to a place and played well in Phoenix, where historically he's had good weeks. And then he adds an event where he has no record, and he wasn't in contention to win. But if he had done something insane late coming in, and I know you're going, oh, I always think he can win, even when he's 12 back with 9 to go.
I think he's got some compromising pictures of you or
I
something.
mean, it really is ridiculous.
Something.
Is he making you believe that maybe, one, he can do something of the players he hadn't done in a long time? 2014 was the one year where he had a really, really good week, a lot of miscuts, and then beyond that, Augusta National. Are you believing?
Not yet, Gary.
Not yet?
Not yet, no. Okay. I'm getting closer, but not yet. I, for one, was very surprised to see him play well at PGA National. It's not a golf course that you would think would really suit Jordan Spieth, as you mentioned, first time he'd ever played it as well. I'm not ready just yet. I think he is trending in the right direction, and I think he's ahead of where he thought he was going to be.
I agree with that.
When we heard him talk initially, it was, I want to get myself into contention once before the Masters. He got himself into contention in Phoenix. And he played decent last week, but no, I'm not ready yet.
Okay, how about you?
Well, I mean, actually, what he just said about PGA National does give me a little more hope that he'll play well at the Players. But I would ask Johnson this. Jordan Spieth's ball striking has gotten better and better, even through the wrist injury. But I've always felt like Jordan is a guy that needs to be comfortable with the sight lines that he sees. And this golf course, to me, makes you more uncomfortable with sight lines than any other.
Well, and when you look at how he's performed this year, yes, he played well at WM, Phoenix Open. Yes, he played well at the Cognizant, excuse me. Both had very little rough. Pebble Beach, the same. When you look at his performance at Genesis, at Torrey Pines, heavy, heavy rough. He really struggled.
Yep.
Jordan can get creative when he misses fairways, but when you look at the standard rough that's going to be at Sawgrass, it's going to be more similar to Genesis than either of those other events. I am not bullish on him playing well at the Players, but I am extremely encouraged going forward this year at a place like Augusta, at potentially making the Ryder Cup team again, which I know is a massive goal of his. So I think, no, maybe not the Players. It would be a bit shocking to see him in contention, but moving forward, I think we're going to see him a lot, maybe in Texas.
Well, you can mock him all you want, but you don't disagree with what he just said.
No, absolutely not. But an opportunity to mock is never going to be passed by. I think that the rough. Look, it's not going to be Bay Hill rough. It's kind of a tweener between what you're talking about as far as Torrey Pines. He's not in Bay Hill. He was not happy about getting passed over for that. He has to be encouraged to go to a place like PGA National, which is discomforting. And for him to have a really, really solid week, I will say this. If he top 25s at the Players, like that to me is like a benchmark of achievement. Guy has had so many bad weeks there after 2014. And for somebody who I think has one of the best attitudes, even if he doesn't like the place, he'll convince himself that it's my kind of place. He's always done that. I remember at Chambers Bay, when everyone showed up and they're going, okay, there's no grass on these greens. And he's like, let's say it all you want. I love it. And I don't know whether he loved it or not, but I think that if he has a solid week, play 4 rounds, my feeling about him, as it always is at Augusta National, is going to be, like, I right now think I will put him in my 5 at Augusta National. Are you trending in that direction?
Oh, absolutely.
You are.
Yeah, given what
You're not.
No,
yet.
no.
Okay.
No.
No, it's emphatic. It's like a judge. No. Next case.
Can I come over there?
Please. Please.
No, I think it's the kind of thing where in the bigger picture, at the beginning of the year, it was at Pebble Beach when he was asked. He was asked by Gabby Herzig in terms of goal setting. And I thought it was great what he said. He's like, look, here are the certain things that I want to do between now and Augusta National. And the truth is that he's clicked off most of those things, including legitimately at Phoenix, getting into the mix, then adding another event where he had no record at all because he never went, and he played well.
Johnson, I see improved play in every single part of his game. The one thing that I would ask him is, do you feel comfortable with your wrist? I think that he believes he feels more comfortable than he did last year. But, how is he going to feel a month from now, 2 months from now? Is this going to be an issue the rest of his career? I hate that every time he makes contact with the ground in the last couple of years, he's been thinking about that. But that would be my big question for the Masters moving forward.
And he said this week that when he wakes up, both hands don't feel the same. But as he loosens up, as he gets out on the golf course, that it's starting to feel more normal. I think his wrist is trending in the proper direction. I don't think there's going to be any lingering effects there.
Yeah, but is it one of those? I mean, April in Augusta, it can be cold at times. It can be cold, miserable, and windy. Is that going to have an effect on Jordan Spieth?
Put a little icy hot on there.
Yeah, I look, you're right. We've had, and it seems like over the last couple of years at majors, it seems like every one of them, like the Open Championship has been the one where the weather's been consistent, where the others, including Pinehurst, it was like, God, it's downright chilly. That is a factor. Everything else, when he gets there, reading lies, hanging lies, improvisation, looking at the way he wants to paint pictures, I feel like you guys do. I know you're not quite there yet. How about the Euros? We've had this conversation as now we're into the month of March. They have laid down markers, not only in terms of winning on the PGA Tour, winning as Tyrrell Hatton did to start the year in the Middle East. You can add Adrian Morong, value it any way you want on LIV. We know John Rahm, he's a perennial top 10 there. What about the Euros and the Players?
I have 2 guys that I think could have really good weeks that you would say would be course fits. Sepp Straka's already won this year at the Amex. Played pretty good last week at the Cognizant, or a couple weeks before at the Cognizant Classic. And I'm also looking at Tommy Fleetwood. Like, we've been waiting for this guy to break out and have a big event, win a big event. And I think
win any event in the United States.
If Tommy Fleetwood gets in the hunt and wins the Players Championship, I think it is like, here's the European Ryder Cup team. We're here. We're going to be in it for the whole season.
I know Brendon will get mad at me. Don't feed the guy's ego. ago, but if Johnson was putting for Tommy Fleetwood, ball game, it's over.
Yeah.
Certainly inside 20 feet. I mean, that's been the big issue for him in those moments. But 100% agree with Fleetwood. This is a perfect kind of place for him, you would think, to win in the United States of America finally. But yeah, Luke Donald, the captain of the European Ryder Cup team, wishes the Ryder Cup was right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, because of the form of most of his players. And you try to build some depth on the American bench, and there are a lot of questions. Fortunately, they've got plenty of time to answer those questions. But right now, that team, we have no idea who's going to be on that American team. We seem to have a much better idea who's on that European team.
Yeah, particularly the first half of it. As it relates to this event, let me ask you about a couple of names. Thomas Dietrich, he did what Tommy Fleetwood is looking to do. Tommy has lots of wins outside of the United States. Dietrich did not. But not only did he win in Phoenix, he won in a way that it was like, well, yeah, he won, but boy, was he really shaky coming down the stretch. No, it was so emphatic. We had him on the show, and he was talking about state of mind and belief and doubt and all the things that he has been riddled with for years. I think Thomas Dietrich, there's no reason why someone like Thomas Dietrich can't go to the Players and be a factor, right?
Oh, very much so. It's a good golf course for Thomas Dietrich. And yeah, the way he handled himself down the stretch there at Phoenix, he's going to take so much from that into these kind of big events. There's so many Europeans. I think the biggest thing for the Europeans right now is they're going to be trying to figure out who's going to get left off. That's going to be the hardest decision to make. But yeah, a golf course that's going to suit perfectly for Shane Lowry as well.
Bingo, another one.
Aaron Rai is the guy that's kind of popping up every now and then.
Another good one.
Another A to B player.
How about the Højgaards or a Norgard if you want one of those? Seriously, why would not one of the Højgaards be a factor at the Players?
A little bit erratic off the tee.
Okay,
I mean, they
fair.
hit the ball high in a mile, but
There's a dozen of them, like I said.
But at the same time, the Players offers you options off the tee. You don't just have to send driver all day long. Holes like 14, 15. You can squeeze 3-woods or long irons if it's playing firm and fast. So it's not a course you have to rely on the driver exclusively.
If Phil can win at the Players, somebody who is errant can find the weak. I do think the Lowry angle is a good one. Again, I think Dietrich, Aaron Rai is a good name. Like as we get to the era where we start talking about long shots, how about somebody who you think it's not about winning, but again, back to this whole idea of finding some form. Like, shake it off, man. You're mummified right now.
Yeah, that was the one that I was having the toughest time with, is who is going to all of a sudden find their way into some form in the Players that hasn't been playing well this year. And maybe it's just because he's a local guy and we see him more and we're around him more. But I haven't seen much from Mackenzie Hughes so far in 2025. And he's got an exceptional short game, really good around the greens and then on the green. Trusting his tee ball is going to be a big factor here, but it wouldn't surprise me. He's made a couple of runs there in the past. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw Mackenzie Hughes have a really good week at the Players.
Okay, who's somebody who hadn't done much, who kind of needs a week?
Well, he hasn't done much through no fault of his own. It's Xander Schauffele. I'd like to see something of him before we start getting into the major season. I think Xander needs to play well. He's going to be using that week plus a few others kind of as his build-up now, because obviously he's behind from not being able to play early.
Let me give you one and have you react to. And it's not that he's had a couple good starts this year. This to me would be a perfect spot for him. Again, he contended legitimately for the first time last year in a major, and that's Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay's totality in terms of the way that he goes around. There's not many holes. The requisite toolbox, he has it. I would not be a bit surprised if he is deep into that golf tournament on the weekend with a chance.
And has a caddy on the bag that's won two of them with Fred Couples and Joe LaCava. I wouldn't be surprised at all with Patrick.
And Tiger as well in 13.
So excuse me, 3.
Yeah.
For me, he is playing better. I just think there's some factor in his game. His short game's good. His iron play is good. He putts it okay. I just don't know what it is that's preventing him from being there on those big stages.
Did Pinehurst not make you think that maybe he had closed some of the holes? Like, weirdly, as Rory was going through whatever he was going through in the last couple holes, it was Cantlay who had a putt on the last hole to put his put himself in that playoff.
Pinehurst is such a different type of golf
Fair.
course, though. I mean, like the typical TPC Sawgrass Stadium setup, it's got the rough, it's got the bunkers. Pinehurst was an enigma as far as a major championship golf course for
Fair.
me, backing Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, I was thinking more that those are all fair points. The psychological barriers that have had him to where he was no closer than 5 shots from the lead entering the final round of a major. I thought that he made strides from the psychological, intellectual side of things. When you talk about Rory, again, he's a winner at this event. He not only has won, and the way that he won at Pebble, to me, we've all talked about this, there was something refined about it. This was not the onslaught of Quail Hollow where build a tee wherever you want, put it across the street from where the tournament office is on 16. I'll still fly that bunker on the right-hand side. He picked his spots with his driver at Pebble Beach. Why not Rory again? Or are you not feeling it?
I don't know if I'm feeling it or not. The one thing that I wonder is about form, and form is so fickle. You know, do you want to peak too early? If the whole goal is to try to win a major championship, try to complete the career Grand Slam, win at the Masters, and or win other majors this year, there's a little part of me that wonders if Rory is really full throttle at the Players or at Bay Hill, or if he starts in Houston, which I think he might do before the Masters starts, or is he working on a few things to get ready for the Masters? That's my only hesitation.
Okay.
I'm kind of bullish on Rory after what
Okay.
we saw at Pebble. If
Yeah.
he takes that kind of game into the Players, I remember I had this conversation with Nick Price. I hated this golf course. I couldn't figure out how to play it. And Nick looked at me, he's like, man, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. This golf course is not that difficult to play. You find a club that you can hit to the 150-yard marker. From there, you hit it in the middle of the green. You're going to have a decent length putt on every hole. He said the 17th hole, one of you your caddy starts on the left side of the green. You start on the front of the green. Where you guys meet, you hit it there 4 days in a row. He was very matter-of-fact about it, and he had a wonderful record. And I think if Rory is ready to kind of dial it back and do that kind of thing, where he hits a lot of irons off tees, just gets it into the fat part of the fairway, his iron game's always good. He can contend there.
Yeah, I'm more on your side there, Taylor, because I feel like last year at the Players, we saw him working on a little bullet cut a lot. He pulled it left on 7 on Thursday where I threw the ball. He did that on 18 as well on Thursday. I think he's trying to iron out kinks. I think he's trying to figure out some shots. Now, his wedge play has been so much better early part of this
Yes.
year that maybe he's not going to have to work on that. And if he drives it well, it could prove solid for him. But I think the Masters is so important. I think he's ironing out the kinks.
The wedge play is noticeable, by the way,
Yes.
and that gives me a lot more confidence that Rory is going to finally cross the line and win a major championship for the first time in 11 years. I want to go back to Nick Price's advice, which was great. Why didn't you listen to the man? You did have a couple of top 15 finishes in a row, though.
I did. Well, that was as good as I could do, and that was before that year. I went to him. I was like, Nick, I can't figure this place out, and yeah, he did. He told me to do that, and I did. I stuck by it, and yeah, I managed a couple top 15s.
So what club do you hit when your driver wouldn't get to the 150 mark? Did you lay up to 150?
Next question.
I think there are a couple things about him, whether it applies to the Players or beyond, which is, again, that is the albatross, which is Augusta National. I think he's more cerebral than he used to be. I think, going out and kind of widening his lens on playing golf and going to New Zealand. I had a conversation with him a couple of weeks ago about seeing the world in a different place. But more importantly, as it applies to being better as a competitive golfer, I think he's better around the greens. I think he has greater belief in short shots. Until what happened at Pinehurst, I thought he was in a position to win with a 2-shot lead because of the up and downs that he had on 4, on 5, on 8 at Pinehurst number 2. And the other thing is that when you go back and you look at when he won there, if you look at that closing stretch, like I went back and I watched Paul Azinger calling that last moment on the 18th tee, and he's like, God, I don't know about him hitting driver here. And then Paul said, you know what? It's his greatest strength. He should lean on his strength. It was 4 miles an hour into off the right. That was one of the most grown-up tee shots he's hit in his career, not to mention the fairway iron shot on 15. I think he'll have a good week. I'm not picking him to win, but I think that he is more complete. And back to what you were saying about his wedges, you look at the way that those wedges are exiting now. His finish is different. There is a softer arm approach to the way that he's hitting those shots. I don't know that he's better than he was 10, 12 years ago. I think he's more refined. And I don't know if that can translate into him to being better at the place that means the most to him.
I will say, while Johnson and I are on the same page about him, it's all about winning the major championships. He has admittedly been humbled by Scottie Scheffler. I mean, everyone has.
Yeah.
But this is the guy that was seen as the best player in the game for basically a decade plus, and now there's someone else that is seen as the best player in the game. While he did have a moment trumping Scottie Scheffler a few years ago in Atlanta, I think if Rory has that opportunity again, forget the majors, forget everything else. He wants to take full advantage of that if he can beat Scottie Scheffler. I think that if that opportunity presents itself, he wants to take full advantage of that.
He had that opportunity Sunday of the Genesis.
Yeah.
And Scottie Scheffler
played with him. Yeah.
In a twosome. And Scottie Scheffler worked him over that day.
Yeah, he did.
And so maybe that's motivation for him coming back after that. But Scottie was incredibly impressive, and Rory was mundane until the very end. He made a couple late birdies.
It's true. And look, we always are searching for some kind of vibe between a couple of guys to have, and it's not necessarily about friction, like the idea that this could be something. We've done it with Brooks and Rory, and they kind of traded some punches, whether it was Atlanta or Memphis, and that was kind of interesting. And then it was over like that. I do think that Rory finding inspiration from Scheffler, spending some time with him doing that match, and it's not about valuing that's helpful to a guy like that. Like, you're the standard now. And I think it's beyond this. It's beyond Augusta. So let's talk about Scheffler. Do you think that he will be absolutely, come the weekend, the guy that we're looking at, whether he's 2 ahead or 5 behind, he's still the favorite?
Yeah, he's going to be around.
He is.
He's going to be around.
He will be the betting favorite Saturday morning. Do you agree with that?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, look, he doesn't like all the Tiger comparisons, and I get it. I mean, if you look at Tiger's record, you'll find some extraordinary
Why, when he's
things.
combing social media? Never.
Yeah, but you'll look at it and you'll say, "My goodness, we didn't realize just how historical what Tiger was doing." But what Scottie is doing now, we haven't seen since then.
No.
And he is the most sure thing that we have in the game. Yes, I know that we have another guy here in Charlotte who was a sure thing in NASCAR, in Jimmy Johnson. And anytime you started handicapping NASCAR races, which used to happen in a building like this one, people would say, "Oh, way to go out on a limb if you're picking Jimmy Johnson." And that's kind of the way it is now with Scottie Scheffler, who has a very similar personality, by the way. I totally expect him to be the betting favorite going into this tournament and going into the weekend.
Yeah, he definitely is going in. And the reason I ask that is that you mentioned Genesis. He was behind and was the betting favorite because of the assumption. And public money is now starting to pour in on him. And you believe, like last year and similarly at other places, that he's going to reel guys in. And he's done it. He ain't afraid to shoot 64 or lower on a Sunday, like the Olympics, which was one of the great moments that we all got to witness, and then obviously in the aftermath of that. Give me the 3-hole stretch on this golf course. Forget 16, 17, and 18. It stands alone that you love in particular.
I like 4, 5, 6. 4 is my favorite
Yeah, I
hole
love
out there.
that.
There's so much volatility on that 4th hole. We've seen a bunch of 2s there. If you drive it in the rough, you've got a decision to make.
Yes.
Whether you actually try and take on that short shot or not. I think then 5 is a
very hard driving
5 is
hole.
a very,
It's
very hard.
ridiculous.
I think one of the hardest driving holes on the golf course for sure.
Yeah.
It's an awkward looking tee shot, kind of sets you up in that left rough. And then I think 6 is cool. It's another short par 4, gives you a good option to make birdie. But if you miss it there and you miss it in that right side in those trees, you're in jail over there. I think it's just kind of an underrated stretch of the golf
Okay.
course.
And they've added that tree back. When they moved the tee back on 6, they've added the tree. So I'm looking forward to seeing it because it was last year, guys were just pumping driver up there, getting as close as they can. I don't think that's an option now that overhanging tree's there on that tee.
Yeah, I'm glad
How
that
about
tree's
you?
back.
Give me your stretch that you like.
My stretch is 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
11's an incredible risk-reward par 5. 12 is the drivable green in the right conditions. And 13...
Do you like when they changed that? Were you in support of the way that looks now as opposed to the way it used to be?
It was an interesting hole. I kind of liked it the way it used to be, but it is exciting on the back 9, and I have no issues with it. I would have designed it a little bit more like 14 at Quail, where you can work it in a little bit better. It's almost too penalizing.
It hasn't provided enough, I don't think, in the championship, has it? It
No,
hasn't.
and I agree.
It's kind of been flat.
Yeah, and I would love to see them move the tee up more than just one day there to find a little more risk reward. But you're right, around the greens. But I love that stretch that he just picked, 11, 12, 13, because you could see eagles on 11. You could see guys try to drive the green on 12. And then 13, especially where the hole location is on Sunday, using that ridge to get the ball close to the hole.
Yeah.
So
It's the
fun.
best par 3 on the golf course.
I totally agree. And it's harder than 17 is.
way harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Very
would-
close to Johnson's hotel room, by the way.
Yes.
I'll pick 2, 3, 4, just
Okay.
because that's a fun little stretch too. Because you've got a par 5 second, you have a par 3 third, and then I love the fourth hole. Like for the reasons Brendon said, you really should never hit driver there off the tee. You have to put something in position, which is not easy to do.
Yeah.
And then you have this green that just has all this undulation and all this movement over water. I love all of the chaos that can create.
Yeah, I'll push your little stretch one hole further and do 12, 13, 14 because theoretically 12 is a half par, and I think 14 is a half par. Obviously, when Tiger won
each direction.
in each direction, yeah, it's a 3.5 and it's a 4.5, and 13, like you said, the funneling effect you get if the pin is hard left. 14, when Tiger won in 13, got one of the most unusual, dubious drops. He was playing with Casey Wittenberg. I remember Mark Rolfing was behind the tee, and you're going, okay, that ain't that far up there. But anyway, that hole is hard as hell. And when Rory won, he made bogey there. The number of guys who've gone on to still win and made 5 on that hole, I think that's one of the hardest holes in championship golf.
Yeah, that back left flag on 14
yeah.
where you can't even see it behind those trees.
Yeah, if you're down the left side, the right rough's brutal. But I mean, Scottie Scheffler last year on route to winning, it was a front right pin. He was short of the green, massive false front, and he just clipped that little 60 degree to this, made that look way easier than it was, and that really propelled him on to winning that championship.
Why didn't you go and reenact that one?
Because it was too hard.
All right, let's get to a long shot and get to our winner. And we'll decide whether your long shot is by definition a long shot. So who do you got?
I got a real long shot. I'm going to pick Max Grazerman. This guy just keeps on popping up.
Dookie.
He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got a little cockiness to him. I kind
I
of like
love
the way.
that pick. I really do.
Yeah, I like the way he plays.
I have Aaron Rai, and
Okay, good one.
he's currently 25th in the world, so I don't know how much of a long shot it is, but we were talking about it earlier, the way you were talking about it, the way he plods his way around a golf course. I think he is one of the best point-to-point players that we have on the PGA Tour. I like Aaron Rai's chances a lot.
I'm going to go with one of the shortest hitters in the game who's playing the best golf of his life. Brian Campbell is my long shot right now.
As you set it up, you were going to say the name I'm going to give you, Brian Campbell, okay?
And the only concern I have about him is maybe being exhausted because he's going to have played so many weeks in a row. But I was impressed with what he did at the Cognizant the week after winning in Mexico, still playing exceptional golf and, with as accurate of a ball striker as he is. And there's going to be more chances for him to hit driver because he doesn't hit it anywhere.
It's true.
So I'll take him as, a trendy pick this week.
No, and this guy has gotten so good that he really, I don't think by definition is a long shot, but he still hadn't won on the PGA Tour. So winning your first event of the Players to me makes him more of a long shot, and that's Denny McCarthy. He's in a different place. He is habitually getting himself in contention. He's one of the best putters. You hit a lot of greens there. The greens are so small, you're going to have a lot of 20-footers. I'll put him on a green with a handful of 20-footers over really anybody in the game right now. Not that he has to use the more speed and more pop in the bat that he's got, but I will say McCarthy is my long shot. He's more of not really a long shot.
No, it's a great pick, and I will say that'll be emotional for a lot of us that work in the PGA Tour space. He was extremely close to Mark Carnevale. Denny's father and Mark were best of friends. Carney we lost last year, and he will certainly be missed at the Players. Carney was a huge figure throughout the game, but especially in Ponte Vedra where he lives, so that would be a very powerful thing if the guy Carney was closest to on the PGA Tour won.
All right, let's go down the line. Who's winning the Players?
I think it's going to be Tommy Fleetwood. I got a feeling.
He's going to break through at the Players.
Yeah, we talked about Tim Clark doing
Yes.
it. Tim Clark made this his first win. I think Tommy Fleetwood's going to do the same thing. Again, it's that kind of A to B game, very precise player. If Tommy can just make a couple putts, that's the thing I'm going to be watching closely if he is in contention Sunday, is that ball rolling at the hole, because that's kind of been the knock on Tommy Putts have been coming up a little short.
Okay, who you got?
It's going to be a three-peat.
Wow.
Kansas City Chiefs couldn't do it, but I'll tell you, Scottie Scheffler will, and for the reasons why he's a perfect fit for that golf course. And I don't think he listens to the outside noise.
Not at all.
Nobody's ever won it twice in a row.
He doesn't even
Boom,
know.
He goes out and shoots the number on Sunday. Nobody's ever won it 3 times in a row. He doesn't care. He's going to go out and he is going to dominate. I think he's going to have the lead going into Sunday, and I think he wins big. Unfortunately, it's going to be a snooze fest because he's going to win by 4.
Wow. Look, if he wins, and he's already done something nobody's done, and then he does it again, that's such a statement. It's doing things that others haven't done, in particular the guy that he's being compared to because of statistically and performance-wise over a much smaller window, that guy didn't do.
I just so admire how he's able to stay where his feet are on every single shot, and he never thinks
he does
about.
This, la, la, la,
yeah,
la,
he
la,
just
la.
doesn't.
He just doesn't care.
I will say, Johnson referenced how he blew Rory McIlroy away in their little head-to-head matchup at Torrey Pines. Scottie wasn't happy with himself after the round. He still was hitting some loose shots. Everybody else, including me, who's calling it, was saying, gosh, here he comes. And he's like, no, I'm not there yet. I do think that there are a couple of things. He's hitting this left shot on approach right now that he's working on a little bit, but it's hard to go against him. Since he's already been taken, I will take Russell Henley. Again, I think this is the perfect place for him to win the biggest event he will have won on the PGA Tour.
Okay. I like your Collin Morikawa angle. And I thought long and hard about him. Again, one of those handful of guys that you're going, really? He hadn't won in that long? Wouldn't surprise me at all. Ludwig, I think off of already having won in a great field, having had a good first start here, not that necessarily means a great deal year to year, and I think he's going to go to Augusta National where, again, he showed up, and with 9 holes to go, he had as good a chance as anybody. Not that anybody's ready to reel in Scottie in the grand scheme of things. I think he's going to make an emphatic statement that he is absolutely capable by the end of 2025 of being number 1 in the world.
It would be great for the game if this happened. To have more stars like an Oberg out there reach the mountaintop going into the Masters a few weeks later, that'd be terrific for the game. It's nothing against Scottie Scheffler and Johnson's pick of, here we go again, 3 in a row, but it'd be great to have some more contenders out there.
You said something that I can't let go of. You said he was going to be number 1 in the world
No, I
by
said
the
he
end
could
of
be.
25.
I said he could be.
I'll take action on that.
If he wins this golf tournament, are you saying he has no chance of being number 1 in the world?
By the end of 25, I think he has no chance. I'll give it to you maybe into 26. I think
The gap's too big.
I think the gap's too
Fair.
big. But I mean, you go rattle off the players. It sounds like you're giving him the Masters too.
No, I'm not. No, I've got another guy for that. And we will do the Masters preview. I do think that even though he may not mathematically be number 1, I think it's very possible at the end of the year we will have a conversation, and when we say who's the best player in the world, I don't think there's going to be a great deal of hesitation if one or more than one of us says it's Ludwig Oberg.
Yeah, and Gary, I just want to say before we finish, around the green at Augusta National is as challenging as anything that any amateur player will play, but you are way more uncomfortable in Ponte Vedra until you get around the green than you are at Augusta National. This is the best ball striking golf course there is. And I think all amateurs, until they play that golf course, don't appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. From Brendon and Jonge, Johnson Wagner, Taylor Zarzour, I'm Gary Williams. Hope you enjoyed our Players Preview. Enjoy the Players Championship. We're back, this crew, for the Masters Preview. See you then.